All right, so today I am reorganizing my entire bookshelf in my basement because it is just utter chaos, and I want to make this organized so that when I want to decorate for Christmas, things just look nice and I don't need to organize the books on top of decorating for Christmas. So enjoy this time lapse of me unhauling everything, taking everything off the shelves, cleaning, and then putting everything back. And I'm pretty happy with the results, honestly. All right, so I just really was feeling a reorg of my bookshelves because I wanted to unhaul a bunch of stuff first off. And I also wanted to just reorganize. I had previously organized by color with the exception of my book of the month shelves. I wanted to do more by genre because I had books by like the same author in the same series that were all about, and it was just bothering me. Plus, I've gotten a ton of books, I've sold a ton of books. I just needed to reorganize. So I did that today while I was listening to some arguments and stuff for work. And I'm kind of surprised by what I found because I decided organizing by genre. I thought I would have more general fiction and like fantasy than I actually do. And I was surprised by just some of the developments that I made. So I reorganized, and we're just gonna go through this shelf and then over there, but the sun is really strong, so the lighting will be kind of different. So book of the month stays here. I haven't made a huge dent on this year, which I'm a little embarrassed about. That's definitely a next year goal for sure. Down here are all my fantasy books. I do have a bookshelf that is in the room back here that's just like mass market romance and some of my like old favorites from childhood. And then upstairs in my office, I have like favorite books of all time, classics, legal books, my Louise Penny series, Sarah J. Maas is up there. That I need to decide. I want to get a bigger bookshelf for my office. So, because I want that bookshelf to be more like display books because it is where I work during the day and I want that behind me. So that's an aside. This shelf is sci-fi and horror. Up here are my romance books that are more standard format. And then up high would be classics. Over here is the Scythe series that I still haven't read, but my husband loved. I need to figure out what to do with this like stack of stuff. And I still need to organize. I also really needed to clean my bookshelf, so this was a good thing to do. This is what I mean by it's very bright over here, so you're probably not gonna be able to see much unless I like... Ugh. I don't know how this will work very well. It's not going to. So we're just gonna deal with it. But up high, I have got historical fiction here, and then it goes down to this shelf. So historical fiction. Up here is magical realism, general fiction, and general fiction kind of got like scattered around where I could fit it. There's some general fiction here, and then all down on this lower level behind the stack of books, these are all the books that I've unhauled that I will be going through later. And then these like 3 shelves are all nonfiction, which blew my mind how much nonfiction I have that I have not read. So that will be a priority in the new year. And then over here is like mystery thrillers, and yeah. So I got rid of like 17 books, which is really good for me. And then I have a whole other box of books that I have on Pango right now too. So those are all listed on my Pango channel. We'll go through those later when the light is a little better. But I think the biggest thing that I realized in doing this reorganization is that I have a ton of nonfiction that I have not read, and that shocks me because I'm not a huge nonfiction reader, but like certain books I do. So that will be definitely a goal for next year. I have a lot of historical fiction. That was also kind of surprising, and then general fiction. So very interesting. I'm excited because now that I have it by genre, it's a little more motivating to read my bookshelves in a weird way. I don't know if that makes sense, but it does to me. So that's what I did today, and I will check in later with an unhaul and we'll talk about those stuff. Hi friends, so it is another day and the lighting still is terrible because this is the time I get to film because I work, right? So I unhauled quite a few books from my bookshelf, more than I actually was expecting, and they are all listed on my Pango, which I have linked below. I think I have I'm pretty sure I have 60 books listed on Pango right now, so even beyond these, there's a lot of book of the month on there. There's a signed copy of The Future by Naomi Alderman on there right now too. I unhauled 16 books, which is a really good haul. And I'm gonna go through some of them right now, all of them right now. The very first one is 1000 Perfect Weekends. I'm actually giving this to my parents. This is a National Geographic book for traveling. They're retired and just living their best life traveling the world. So I think they would really like this. And then In Praise of Home Cooking, I thought this was one that would be on my forever shelf, but I have not opened it since I was sent the book. It's kind of a how to cook and a book of essays about cooking with some recipes in there. And it's just not something, I'm not a beginner cook, so I don't really find a lot of value in this. There are things about how to teach your younger ones to cook. For me, it's just not relevant, but it's a really beautiful book. There's things like how to make the best rice, how to make a quiche, just stuff like that. Salad recipes, and just some of the basics you should know as a cook. But it also has really great food writing. So if that's something you're interested in, this is a great book for that. I unhauled quite a few books that I don't know even why I have them. So Love and Other Lies, this is a Norwegian or Icelandic thriller. Norway. Yep, it's about a summer camp shooting. It's a thriller. If you like Nordic noir thriller type things, that would be maybe good. But I do not. This is a historical fiction book about the Mormon Church. And it's a lyrical novel that explores the hidden history of the Mormon Church through the eyes of one woman, Emma, the first wife of the prophet Joseph Smith. I went through a phase where I was reading a ton of stuff about the Mormon Church, and this just sounded really good at the time, and I have zero desire to pick it up, ever. Okay, and then We Can Only Save Ourselves by Allison Wisdom. This was a debut, and I considered keeping it, but I just haven't been drawn to it at all. And it's comped to The Girls and The Virgin Suicides, which I liked both of those, but didn't love them. And so I think it's a cult book. Yes, it's a cult book, mother-daughter relationship book. Just didn't really feel drawn to it. So I'm gonna unhaul that. And then Rosie Walsh's The Love of My Life. I think that this book handles adoption better than any book I've ever read, but I still don't want to keep it on my shelf because I have zero interest in rereading it. That's one of my caveats for making a book be a forever book on my shelf. This is really good though. And then Susan Wiggs, The Lost and Found Bookshop. I want to say someone sent this to me, a publisher or something. But again, women's fiction, I just don't really feel drawn to it. No Names to Be Given is another book about adoption. It's about the women who be pregnant in their teenage years back in the 60s, 50s and 60s, and they are forced to relinquish their babies, and then they get to go back to society. They lose all contact with their children. The author sent this to me, and it is really good, but it's not one that I really want to keep on my shelf. And then Rich White Men, thought this sounded interesting. What It Takes to Uproot the Old Boys Club and Transform America, but zero interest in picking it up of late, and I'm just trying to be more selective on my shelf. So if you like social history and all that, that might be good. All About Love by Bell Hooks. I've read this before, so I'm just unhauling it. Tell Us No Secrets and We'll Never Tell Lies. I want to say this is a dark academia. I feel like Gwen read this and didn't really like it, but it's a dark academia, Mean Girls-ish thriller. And then Spillover, Animal Infections in the Next Human Pandemic. I was sent this book, or no, I got this in a book subscription 1 month before the pandemic started. No, thank you. But I've heard really good things about it, and yeah, I just don't think this is necessarily something I'm interested in because I've lived through a pandemic. I'm good. Summer Darlings was sent to me by Booksparks back in the day. If you guys remember that, they did like this fun summer box where you could pay $50 and they'd send you like surprise books. And this was one of them. I have no idea what it's about, but it's blurred by Ellen Hilderbrand, and it does have a really pretty cover. Set during the splendid summer days of 1960s Martha Vineyard, this debut novel pulls back the curtain on one mysterious and wealthy family as seen through the eyes of their nanny, a college student who, while falling in love on the elegant island, is also forced to reckon with the dark underbelly of privilege. So that could be good. I just have other books I want to read. Ooh, Transcendent Kingdom by Ya Jesse. I loved this book, not enough to keep it on my shelf. And then The Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. This is a classic. I have started this and DNF'd it so many times that it's time for me to just say, it's time, it can go. And then finally is The Kindest Lie. It's blurred by Jodi Picoult, and I think it's about a Black family during like the 2008 financial crisis. I just haven't heard a lot about it, and I think that I'm probably never gonna pick it up, so I'm unhauling it. But The Kindest Lie by Nancy Johnson is the last book I've unhauled. So that's a pretty good little chunk of books to unhaul. And I'm still really excited about having a bookshelf that is like totally reorganized. It makes a little more sense for me, so that's really fun. But yeah.